Okay, so go ahead and go to the next slide. This is the Cascade International Profile. This information can all be found on Cascade's website. And it lets you know a little bit about the background for the international program at Cascade. And when you ask, why am I taking this course? Why do we even have a course like this offered? Well, this is why. Because since 2006, we've had an international program here. We started out with only 12 students, but now we have more than 70 in all of Cascade's campuses this year, the 2011-2012 school year. And it's only growing. There are more coming next year. There are many who are signed up for the Summer English Academy, which was much smaller last year. This year there are many who have signed up. So the international program is growing. The world is coming to us right here on the Cascade campus. Some of the various cultures that are represented are Australia, Austria, or have been represented, China, Germany, Guatemala, Japan, Kazakhstan, Korea, Latvia, Mexico, New Zealand, Russia, Sierra Leone, Spain, Taiwan, Ukraine, Venezuela, and Vietnam. So we have literally had many nations come here to Cascade. Right now, the majority of our international students are Korean, and we have a good contingent of Chinese, and every January we have a group who comes in for 1 quarter from Japan, as well as some people from other countries as well. You might not realize, or maybe you do, depending on which subject you teach, you might not realize how smart these students really are. So on this same slide, you will notice the summary of SAT results. And on the left-hand column says Cascade Christian High School, and next to that is the internationals. And on the far right is the national average. So in 2011, while the average or mean score for Cascade Christian High School is 519 in the verbal section of the SAT, the internationals was 436. So it's about 80 points less, which isn't surprising given that English language is the most challenging thing for international students. However, in the math section, the average score among the whole class was 554, but internationals was 672. So more than 100 points higher than the average in Cascade. They're actually 150 points higher than the national average, which is 514. So in math, they are way high, far above, better than the average American students. And when you put those together, the composite scores, you see that the composite of all the sections of the SAT, the average of all Cascade High School students and the average of the internationals is almost the same. There's not any significant difference. And actually the average of the internationals is 100 points higher than the national average. So our international students are pretty smart. They might have difficulties with communicating, and they might have difficulties in specific subject areas, but overall, they're incredibly intelligent people. What do your fellow teachers think about our internationals? So we gave a survey to Cascade teachers in March of 2012, and we asked them to identify which aspects of school the international students really excelled in, and which aspects they struggled in. And so on the next slide, you see what we found out. The areas where our international students were very successful and above average were coming to class prepared and paying attention in class. You'll notice that internationals really seem to take school seriously, and sometimes much more seriously than American students do. And then the next two things, numerical math problems and scientific experiments. If judging from the SAT scores, it's no surprise that they excel in math and science. The areas where these students were below average or struggled significantly were 4 different areas. First of all, learning and using new vocabulary, which is not surprising for a language learner. There is so much vocabulary that they have to learn on a daily and weekly basis at our high school, or even in our elementary schools as well. Written reports and essay test questions, so anything where they have to write. Writing is very difficult, productive skill, so one of the most challenging skills for any language learner. And participating in class discussions and oral presentations. Speaking is also difficult, especially in a formal setting in front of a large group of people. Public speaking is quite the challenge, even for domestic students. And can you imagine doing it in a foreign language? How much more nervous would you be speaking in front of a large group of people? Whether it's in a presentation setting or in a class discussion. This makes students very nervous, and sometimes they don't participate. They choose to be shy and they draw back because they're afraid of saying something wrong, or using incorrect grammar, or using incorrect vocabulary, or bad pronunciation. So this is a significant struggle for them. And finally, reading comprehension is also difficult, especially when you get into the highest levels of reading. A lot of the students that come here have anywhere from a 2nd to 7th grade reading level. And if they come into 10th grade and are reading 10th grade level material, this is quite a challenge. Even for the 7th grade level people, it's a challenge. I mean, imagine for the students who come in who have a lower reading comprehension level. So that is what our teachers have identified as the main areas where internationals excel and the main areas where they struggle. Go ahead to the next slide and you'll see some specific quotes from our teachers. Specific things that they mention are the contributions of internationals and the challenges. For contributions, they set a high standard in the sciences and in the sciences and are a little more serious about their work. They help the American students to have a bigger picture of the world that we live in. In the online math course, the 3 TAs are all foreign students and are so helpful as they tutor the American students. So in that area of math, you can even see international students on our campuses who are helping the Americans, who are a resource to them. I love when they share about their culture. Love when they share their ideas from a culturally different perspective. So wonderful. Also, they provide a good example of overcoming through hard work. And finally, they bring a fresh view to a lot of the literature. So we see that our teachers really appreciate our internationals for a lot of different reasons. Their different perspective because of their cultural background, and especially their work ethic. So what are the challenges that our teachers have identified? First of all, the language barrier, which is pretty obvious, but related to that, vocabulary questions on tests. International students tend to do more poorly on those. Also, not fully understanding the assignments is a problem. It's very difficult to actually create a good final product if you don't understand what you're shooting for. So a student might turn in something, but it's a little off the mark. It's not what the teacher actually asked for. So this is something to remember as we go forward. Test taking can be a challenge for them, the pressure of that. Reading comprehension and understanding literature. Their writing is difficult to understand. And finally, there can be a tendency to only get help and collaborate with others of their same background. So this tendency to self-segregate. The Koreans spend time with the Koreans, the Japanese with the Japanese. And to get off task and to chat in Korean or Japanese. This is always a tendency when things are challenging and difficult working in a second language. If there's somebody else who speaks your language, it's such a relief to just chat away with them in your native tongue. And this can be a challenge for our international students as well, something to be aware of, something to try to work to prevent. So we surveyed the teachers, but we also surveyed the international students, and we asked them in June of 2012. We asked them a few questions about their experience here at Cascade. The first question is on the next slide. Why have they chosen Cascade? So here were the most common answers. First of all, location. They wanted to be on the West Coast. They wanted to be near Seattle, but they also appreciate the fact that we're not in the middle of a busy city. We're in a suburb, in the countryside, as some of them characterized it. So they really appreciate that. Secondly, a recommendation of their agency. All the students who come here, or the great majority, not every single one, but the great majority, come through an agency that represents them. It's sort of a combination of a travel agency and an agency for students. They specifically work with the school in their home country and the families in their home country with the logistics of immigration and foreign visas and things like that. So we have a good network of agencies that actually recommend Cascade to students. So that's one of the main reasons that our students come. Thirdly, they believe that a private school is a better environment. Also, international students only have the option of studying in public schools for 1 year, and after that they have to go to a private school. So this is one of the better options. Fourthly, the fact that it's Christian. Many of our international students came here because it's Christian, and they perceive that as a safer place to be. They also value the emphasis on learning about God. And this is not only the Christian background students. We also had some responses from students from an atheistic or a Buddhistic background who said they came here because Cascade is Christian. One quote from one student said, "Christian culture is the most important part of American culture, and I really wanted to get to know it." So this particular student is not a Christian, but she really appreciates how much she gets to learn about the Bible and Christianity here at Cascade. Specialized English instruction for internationals, that was one of the top reasons they chose here. They know that they need that extra help, and Cascade has some structures and teachers and curriculum in place that really help them in that area. Programs and activities available, especially sports and music, that was a big one. They love the sports programs. They love the music programs. And finally, the community atmosphere here was a big drawing card. One student said, it's not only a school, but also a warm family. So they love that feeling of being brought into a family, both their host family that they get to live in, but also the family of Cascade here on campus. So we also asked the students, what do they think Cascade's strengths are? And they gave us a number of responses, but the main, most popular responses were, first of all, the ESL class and that education system, that structure that's there for them. The presence of more international students makes us feel more normal, they said. So that is a big calling card. The fact that we have 70 internationals across our campuses really draws more internationals. They appreciate that fact that they're not just one in a sea of domestic students. Teachers have experience working with internationals, and this is a big advantage that we have and that you all have, is most of us have some sort of experience overseas, something cross-cultural that we've done in our background, and our students recognize that and they really appreciate that. Teachers make students work together. They really appreciate the collaborative learning style here, okay? And all the students who filled out this survey have been here for a number of months, at least 5 or 6 months at the least, and some for more than a year. And so maybe they didn't appreciate that collaborative learning environment when they first came, but now they've come to really appreciate that, the way that we work in groups and we collaborate on projects and collaborate in the classroom. Students really also think that the chapel system is a strength of Cascade, that they enjoy having a way to learn about God. Sports, band, music. Also, they mentioned that the students are very kind and that there aren't bullies here. And that is a big strength of Cascade. And that teachers really care about them and give them extra help. So they really feel supported in this environment. So those are the strengths. We asked, what about the other side? What do you think can be improved at Cascade? And they had some really good constructive ideas. First of all, so go ahead and go to the slide that says, what can be improved? And first of all, one student suggested that we should provide a buddy for each international to help them on the first day of school, just getting around. Where's my classroom, you know? So they want more help getting around and more help integrating with the American students. One said, when foreign students come here, we know nobody, so I think they need to make new students comfortable at first. And there's an unspoken divide between international students and the American students. So they want some help with integrating and connecting with Americans. Also, they want some more opportunities to develop more deep relationships with teachers. They said things like teachers need to have a relationship with the international students, and teachers need to know students' feelings. So here we see these two prongs of the main kind of suggestion for improvement. It's relationship. Provide ways to strengthen relationship between our internationals and their American peers, and provide ways to strengthen relationship between our internationals and their American teachers. Also, some other things they've suggested is that we give internationals more chances, like a second chance on tests, a chance to do a retest, and possibly accommodations, more time to do tests, things like that. They suggested we provide more tutoring, and someone said don't judge internationals who don't understand Christianity. So there are obviously at least one person, maybe a few people, who feel some pressure in that area. Even though they appreciate that it's a Christian school, they feel somewhat judged, at least in the beginning stages, when they don't really understand what's going on in terms of the Christian culture here, so they don't want to be judged. They also gave some real practical, logistical suggestions, like time for exercise every day, more support for music, for track, and a longer passing period between classes, longer than 5 minutes, and also some suggestions around lunch. Have a double lunch line, have a longer lunch period, and have more options for what you can eat at lunch. So very practical, helpful suggestions from our internationals. We also asked them how we can help them succeed academically. This is on the next slide. They said provide more SAT and TOEFL preparation. One student said that he thought it would be better to separate that into two separate classes. Right now, the SAT and TOEFL class is one class, but he thought maybe we could provide a class for each of those. He felt like he could have used more preparation, more coaching, more teaching in that area. Give us more help with grammar. So one girl said some grammar needs to be practiced more. Then internationals can remember when they have writing class. Remind us and give us some ideas for practice. So she's really asking, help us to know how to practice so that we can get these grammar rules and these grammar patterns down. Provide after-school help with difficult homework assignments and give clear expectations. So this relates to the area of struggle that the teachers identified. The teachers identified that the students don't really understand their assignments. Well, the students identified the same thing. They said, I think they can explain the assignments more, how you can do the assignments better and give teachers high-quality work. So it's clear that this is something that needs to be worked on. The teachers see that the students are not actually producing what they've asked for on assignments, and the students themselves say, I'm not understanding the assignments. Please help me to understand them because I want to do well. I want to get a good grade and to give you high quality work. But it's hard. I get confused. So that's really gonna, we're gonna pick that up again at the end when we talk about assessment, how you assess students' work. And that has to do with how you assign students work and give them specific expectations and rubrics and things like that for an assignment before they're expected to actually do it. More help with pronunciation is another suggestion for them. One girl said, introduce some good American drama. Believe me, that's very helpful. More exposure to English music and movies can help us with our pronunciation. And finally, another student said, if I was to teach internationals, especially first-year students, I would bring down the level just a tiny bit so that they would get started smoothly. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that comment. We as teachers need to consider that we need to level our speech to students. And our internationals need a little more help. They need you to speak a little more slowly, a little more simply, especially in the first few weeks and months of their experience here. We asked the students, how can we help you succeed in other ways, not just academically? And they gave us a few suggestions there too. They said, first of all, that same thing, create more opportunities for internationals to make American friends. So that's a big theme amongst all these surveys. One student said, international students have a hard time making American friends because they think we're a different school. The ESL system is fine, but make more events for us to participate in with the American kids. So the fact that so many of the internationals are in the ESL classes and the specific Bible for ESL students, that means they're not in all the mainstream classes all the time. So sometimes perhaps the Americans think they're in some sort of subsidiary school. We need to really work on integrating them more with the other Americans. Speaking is another area where they need help. So they'd like for us to provide a conversation class, maybe to partner them up with American students. This allows them not only to practice speaking, but to hopefully make friends with their speaking partner. And finally, assign a buddy to help and befriend. And so this is something that we keep seeing popping up, the whole buddy system idea. One student said, making helping buddies really helped me when I first came here. This student was in the the junior high, and his teachers just assigned him a buddy in each classroom. And he said, my teachers made students around me help me, and it was really good. Also, it helped me get along with friends better and speak better. So, maybe that's something that we can do on a broad spectrum, not just in the junior high, but if every teacher can make it a point to assign an international student a buddy who can help them to understand assignments, who can befriend them, who can help integrate them better into the larger Cascade community. All right, so that's why we're teaching and learning about culture here. We have all these internationals. We have a lot of strengths and a lot of good things to build on, but then there are also areas where we need to grow, areas where our internationals are struggling. And so we want to, as we move forward, as we consider culture, hopefully we will get a better grasp on those issues and how we can address them, how we can meet those internationals where they're at and help them to succeed. So the last part of this lecture is assignment 1B. It's called the culture quiz. So this is kind of a preliminary assignment to get you ready for lecture 2, which is called Cultural Icebergs. On assignment 1B, I want you to open up the document called the culture quiz and read through the 20 scenarios. There's a lot of scenarios, little classroom scenarios that are all cross-cultural. I don't need you to write about all 20. That would take quite a while, but I want you to choose 5 that seem most interesting to you. Perhaps they're scenarios that you've seen in your classroom before, or you could imagine them happening in your classroom. So choose 5 and write a brief response to each, maybe 100 words or less, about how you would handle that situation. Most of these scenarios are some sort of problem. So imagine that you're in that problem. How would you solve it? And give me any insights that you might have into why that problem actually exists. Okay? So choose 5. Do short responses for each one. Then open the partner document, which is called Responses to the Culture Quiz. Read through the 20 responses and especially pay attention to the responses to the 5 that you wrote on and see how close you got to the responses that have been written up. And Also, write 1 or 2 sentences of reflection on how your response is the same as or different from the one in the responses document.